Portland is the largest city in Maine. Just north of Kennebunk and due south of Freeport, Portland is the heart of culture in southern Maine. Portland is a vibrant city of artists, poets, prophets, and kings. And like a fortress, it is surrounded by salt water of the Atlantic Ocean, which they call Casco Bay. Indeed, Portland is the kind of town that makes one feel safe. We traveled today to Portland, Maine in pursuit of wine, and our journey brought us to Eli Cayer at Urban Farm Fermentory, who makes Mead, our honey wine. I first met Eli 10 years ago in Portland when he first began Urban Farm Fermentory. And to my delight, at that time he was making kombucha. Since that time he has expanded his portfolio to include cider, beer, mead, and June. Indeed, Urban Farm Fermentory has grown considerably since I first encountered them. We're here today with Eli Cayer, the owner, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how he started Urban Farm.
We started out with the idea of fermentation as a base, using locally sourced ingredients, foraging ingredients that we would add to it as flavoring agents. We started out making cider, and then mead, kombucha, and more recently, in the last few years, we opened up our brewery and have since also expanded into a bunch of non-alcoholic stuff, such as June, which is similar to kombucha, and then the vinegar. So it's been a really fun experience exploring locally sourced flavors and seeing how they react with these base ferments.
Long before grapevines were cultivated, humans consumed a product called mead. Mead was produced globally as the world's first alcoholic beverage. Our focus on the Vinetime is with wine, so we're going to talk a little bit specifically about mead and
Sure.
your history with mead.
The history there is that right around 2000 was introduced to beekeeping, and from that got interested in mead making and honey wine production. I quickly realized that mead had gotten trapped in the dark ages, and wanted to kind of bring it to more of a modern level, but along the way really fell in love with the beekeeping aspect and the foraging and the gathering of medicinal herbs to add to the flavors of these meads.
Honeybees do not pollinate the vines. However, bees enrich the ecosystem of a vineyard by pollinating plants other than the vines that strengthens the overall vineyard's health. How do you make your mead, and what type of fermentation do you use?
Well, our mead production is pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to make it. The way we're doing it that's different is we're actually using wild yeast from our cider production. To make our ciders, we are fresh pressing apples. And so when they get pressed together, the yeast drop into solution, and that's what we use to ferment our ciders. At the tail end of that process, there's a lot of yeast that drops to the bottom, and so what we do is we collect that yeast. And then we introduce that to our meads when we're first starting to ferment them. So it's honey and water, and then cider yeast, and a mix of bacteria and whatever is on the skins, then get put into this batch, and essentially we just set it and forget. You put it into a room that's consistent temperature of about 60 degrees, and you let that yeast consume the sugar, producing the alcohol.
CO2 and alcohol, absolutely. What would be your favorite type of honey to use to be a base for?
Something that was like a beer-based mead, like a braggot. I would like a darker honey, which would be a fall honey. But generally speaking, we're doing middle of the summer wildflower honey. That's the most abundant. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a blend of all sorts of flowers. It's not too light. It's not too dark.
Middle of the summer and not the end.
Yeah, because the way honey and nectar is produced tends to be very light early in the season and very dark in the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And so we try and get something that's in the middle, just for balance.
In Biodynamics, Rudolf Steiner wrote extensively of bees. He wrote, quote, "The unconscious wisdom contained within the beehive. The hive is reality permeated by love," end quote. Today is something called a cider. So this is a mead, but it's also mead blended with apple cider. What Eli does when he makes this mead is he doesn't add additional yeast. He actually ferments his cider, and he uses the byproduct of the apple cider, and he uses that yeast to make this mead. What do you think that mead will taste like?
Probably sweet, coming from honey.
Heavy? Yeah, okay. So if you want, you're welcome. We'll all taste. Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Not sweet.
Not sweet. Yeah, there is a bit of citrus. Modern threats to honeybees can be seen with the use of pesticides that endanger large bee populations. Without bees, we would not have a healthy food supply. Bees are not only vital to wine production, bees are vital to human existence. This has been The Vine Time with Melanie Bolduc.